Oh, hello, hello.
Good
Hello,
afternoon, sir.
hello, sir.
Good
Good
afternoon. Good
afternoon, sir.
afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you all doing? Hello, hello.
Hello, sir.
So where did we
Hello,
stop?
sir.
Where did we stop?
Environmental.
We are tired. I'm not too sure the entire class is here. We are just like 20. We are barely 27 in this class. Do you want to reach out to your colleagues? Are we ready? I'm not sure we are ready for this class. Hello?
Hello, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm
Good
not,
afternoon,
uh,
sir.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure we are ready for this class.
We are ready, sir. You're ready, sir.
You are just 35, 34 or something. The class is bigger than this. What happened?
Christmas.
Christmas.
No, I think
So those of you
because it was of the
those of,
delay in the link. People didn't get the link.
so how is that? How is that? Should they not be waiting for it? Since when has the link been sent? Is it not the same platform that the link was sent to?
Yes, but it was showing host has another meeting in progress. So many people couldn't join before.
Okay, so we should wait for them then. All right. Let me know when we have the substantial number. I'm still here. I'm just shutting down my video. Hello, it doesn't appear like we are ready for this class, like I said earlier. Well, if we don't see more than this, maybe I can whatever it is that we can do. Good afternoon, everyone. So we are supposed to start with engaging with some of the sectorial rules concerning environmental law, and those sectorial rules borders on some of those concrete aspects of the environment. Remember when we talked about the environment, we talked about the different components of the environment. And one of the major components that we identified was that we say the environment include both the strata of the environment, including the ground, the underground, and the atmosphere itself. So when we talk about sectorial treatment of the environment, we are invariably talking about the different components of the environment, which can include topics like air pollution, land pollution, water or marine pollution, noise pollution, and several, or even waste management. Those are some of the sectorial treatments of the environment. So I'm not too sure whether you started the sectorial, the discussion of sectorial concepts with any of with either Professor Otubu. Did you guys start any topic with him?
Yes, sir. We did 2 topics with him.
Which topics did you do with him?
Solid waste management laws.
Solid waste and what? Okay. Now, so but at least have you done air pollution? Have you done air pollution? Hello.
No, sir, we've not done air pollution.
Okay. It's very obvious you people are already in Christmas mood. What I'm going to do is well, actually, I was just informed that I should take you guys sectorial management this morning. So what I'm going to do is to try to start air pollution with you guys. If so, tomorrow I usually prefer that I have a handout for you guys so that you can we can all be on the same page. But due to the short notice, I would take some aspects of air pollution today, and then hopefully by tomorrow I can have something for us to put us on the same page. Now, when we say air pollution, it's essentially the contamination of air, of the atmosphere, at a concentration that is higher than normal, or that is objectionable, and which can be detrimental to human health. So when you see the different components of the environment, from your carbon dioxide to oxygens to smogs to fumes, when the environment is apparently and by chemical composition higher than the normal baseline cleanliness of the atmosphere, you say that the air has been polluted, and that's when you can say that you have air pollution, and it's rampant both in the rural and then and in the urban areas of the environment. Now, recently, as this is sometime in August or September this year, New Delhi in India was covered like with 80% of smog, and to the extent that it was all the schools in the entire New Delhi was shut down, and people had to move around wearing face masks due to the harm or the danger of inhaling some of the dangerous substances or particles that were part of too concentrated in that environment. So there are different chemical components that can be present in the atmosphere that would lead to the conclusion or to say that the air is actually polluted or they have air pollution. Sometimes they are chemical in nature. Sometimes they are particles that you can physically see, and chemicals, the ones that you really cannot see, but you can smell them. Sometimes they are in form of other chemical reactions. Chemical reactions here, we are talking about when you have sulfuric oxide or nitric oxide. So those are carbon monoxide. Those are the or carbon dioxide, excess carbon dioxide within the environment. And when in fact, it is what is like is regarded as one of the major air pollution, major pollution that we have now, because it is a subset. The climate change is a major effect of air pollution that we have, or atmospheric pollution. Because for for climate change now, we now talk about fluorocarbons and some of the other carbons that that evolved from drilling, mining activities of of majority of oil companies, gas flaring, and all those activities. Those are also components. Those are parts of the atmospheric pollution, and that the effect is that the release of so much carbons into the environment would have the effects or will have the consequence of destroying the layer that protects the sun, that protects the other upper layers of the environment. Here we are talking about the ozone layer. So when you release so much carbons, it distorts the reaction, the natural reaction between the ozone layer and some of the rays that are coming from the sun. And then you have the unpredictability of weather in some cases. You have unpredictability of it could be sunlight, it could be rain, it could be snow and all that. So it alters that nature. So it's a major component of air pollution that we talk about now. So generally, unlike when you see flood in an environment, when you see a land that is clearly contaminated, or you see waters that are clearly contaminated, the atmosphere is not so visible for you, such that you might not know that you are suffering, or that the air is polluted, especially when the smell is not there, where the physical particles are not so apparent. Those are some of the differences in the health in air pollution that we have within the sector. So what you have is that what you see people inhaling some of these things, and they have serious health care consequences into the environment. So the different components. So that's why different regulations were then designed both at the international level and at the local level, because of the negative impact of air pollution uh, on human existence, on animals, on plants, and even the way it alters the composition of the environment. So, but in the case of at the international level, there are different regulations which we are going to look at critically when we begin to pick some of those instruments, some of those treaties that we have looked at when it deals with air pollution. But in Nigeria, what you find is that there are several regulations, also several laws that seeks to regulate atmospheric pollution. We have instruments like some of the different components of the environment that we have within the Nigerian system includes the ones that seek to regulate vehicular emissions. And I always make reference to this sector of the environment. Yeah, a lot of Nigerians, I don't know how to say it now, drive cars, and you see smoke, vehicular emissions coming, especially some of these downfall emissions. I mean, even when last mile, some of these traffic officers see them, I wonder how some of those people, how they don't get arrested on the basis that okay, most of the time they are the ones that usually service their pockets. So those are the problems we have. Vehicular emissions, CO2, and all sort of chemicals that are composed so it's a major problem that we have, a major atmospheric challenge that we have in Nigeria. But one thing, one baffling implication of that is that you hardly see anybody enforcing or anybody seeing the nexus between the health that's health care or the impact of some of these emissions on health. Everybody just thinks they want to get to the next place. And as long as you don't have that physical harm that particular form of air pollution is doing to you, everybody seems to want to move on. And these are dangerous chemicals that people will continue to inhale regularly. So now, but Nigeria has a regulation, a 2011 regulation on vehicular emissions. It is called the National Environmental Control of Vehicular Emissions from Petrol and Diesel Engines, regulation of 2011. So that regulation provides for how some of the rules around how the emissions from petrol engine arrive from some of the. And now these days, people are now talking about electric vehicles because considering the impact of some of the vehicular emissions from gas, vehicular from diesel, and from petrol and all that. So, but then it appears that Nigeria seems to be shifting its emission target from, I think it was initially 2050. Now it's now been moved to 2065 or 2070. I hope we are still alive then. So, I mean, in just a way of showing that, yes, the world is moving from petrol emissions and diesel emissions, and that we are also part of that transition. But it appears that we are just playing. Yet, of course, that's not to say that we cannot get there earlier enough. It doesn't appear like we have the infrastructural provisions to be able to arrive at that at that goal for now. And that regulation provides for including penalties and offenses, which we are going to look at when I will try to list some of those offenses created under the regulation and the fine that are imposed in that regulation. aimed at deterring people from engaging in such. But what you find is even in some of those provisions, is that the penalties are very low. I'm not sure I have. It's only in one case that you have 500,000. Others you have 50,000. You even have 1,000. You have so 50,000, 50,000, 1,000 compared to the impacts of such uh, such pollution on the health of individuals. And then after vehicular emissions and the 2011 regulations that we talked about, and some of the provisions, the challenges to how effective the 2011 regulation is in terms of the low fine and then the imprisonment that it imposes. Most of the time, you always find some of these things in every regulation, in every statute, but they never get to be implemented. Nobody, even when they are implemented, that is supposed to serve. And then the agricultural activities. Agricultural activities contribute to also contributes to serious air pollution arising from indiscriminate bush burning. Go to most of our farms. You see um, uh, people, farmers when they are done, when they have remnants, dry grass and all that. The better way for them, the most effective way they think that they can resolve some of these things is to burn. And then, so when they burn, not only does that pose a threat to humans and then the atmosphere itself, it also poses a threat to even animals. So you see, there are microorganisms in the environment, there are other mammals in the environment, rodents in the environment that are part of the ecosystem that will be destroyed as a result of bush burning and some of those activities associated with agricultural activities. Those are also some of the issues surrounding another major contributor to air pollution in Nigeria. So there is also the National Environmental Control of Bush, Forest and Fire Regulation also in 2011. That's also another regulation that seeks to regulate and to prevent or minimize the destruction of the ecosystem arising from indiscriminate burning and then of materials from agricultural sites. So and then in attempting to arrive at an effective way for burning from agricultural activities, the regulation impose what we call a permit system. That permit system requires that there are different categories of burning activities that you can carry out under the bush burning regulation. We call it bush burning regulation. So you depending on the status, depending on the type of activity, type of burning that you want to do, the minister, the power to grant, there is an agency created to grant such permits. So you would, like we always say, you would inform them of the environmental impacts of such burning and the extent of the burning. It has a form where you fill the where you feel the different details of the type of burning that you want to carry out, and then the agency will review your application, and then you must also get that permission to be able to burn within 21 days, 21 days before you burn. So they must give that permit, so that there would be that impact assessment that will be carried out before you can. So if you check Regulation 5, Regulation 6 of that bush burning regulation, you see some of those provisions. And then it imposes responsibilities or obligations on the permit holder. In turn, it imposes some of the things that if someone who wants to burn the who wants to burn the bush, relating from agricultural activities, what they are supposed to do, in terms of notices, 7 days notice that is required from them before they can carry out some of those. And then it also create that regulation, bush burning regulation also creates offenses and penalties, where offenses relating to failure to obtain permits, the required permit under the regulation, and then failure to put adequate safeguards in place to prevent health issues from. And then it also provides for different regulations relating to other facilities that can burn, and then limits of what you can do. So you don't say you want to burn and then you then begin to use explosives for the purpose of burning. You use even other dangerous materials. So you must comply with requirements of the things that must be used in burning the bushes, from especially when it results from agricultural activities. And then there is also the industrial activities. Sorry, I have a call. I'll call you back. So sorry about that. Okay, so I was saying that it creates offenses, and like in the instance of other regulations that we've talked about, the offenses, the provision of those offenses, at best, the highest, to the best of my knowledge, is 1 million naira, and then you can compare the health care impacts or the impact on the environment and the animals and trees, and the fine of 1 million naira, which, like every other regulation, is always too low, and then it usually doesn't have as much as it has the end impact of protecting the environment. It's always very ineffective, as individuals in this circumstance can bear some of the costs for some of the fines that can be imposed, but it didn't provide the regulations most of the time always fail to provide for remediation processes, remediation as a form of restoring the environment back to status quo antebellum. So those are some of the challenges we have for in some of the provisions of the bush burning regulation that I see. You have 50,000, there are 20,000 as fines. Those are some of which you can argue that can be ineffective. And also the industrial activities, air pollution resulting from industrial activities. Now we've talked about first emissions, vehicular emissions. Second, we've talked about agricultural activities, and the third one now is industrial activities. Industrial activities, which is like in the case of New Delhi that we talked about, it's as a result of all sort of manufacturing activities going on in that parts of the world. That's what led to some of the, and so if you, I'm not sure if you're familiar with some parts of Lagos, there's this section of Lagos called Ilupeju Industrial Axis. The air atmosphere, I mean, based on some scientific study done so far, is mostly concentrated, and because there are all sort of warehouses for manufacturing, for making of plastics and all that in that area. And sometimes there was this part of Lagos, this I don't know what to call. There's this place called Seven Up. Does anybody know Seven Up? So if you are coming, it's like you are leaving Lagos and you are going to Ogun State. They call that place, there's this bridge, this serious landfill. Am I talking to someone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I think I know the
Yes,
place.
sir.
Let's call it
I
toll
don't
gate
even know.
side.
Yes, though that toll gate side. I'm sure anytime you are leaving Lagos or you are coming into Lagos, the smell will tell you that you are now in Lagos, or it reminds you of some of the effects of atmospheric environment, because the air in that area is highly polluted, and you see people driving through that place blocking their nose and all that. Those are part of the effects of industrial. Uh, um, of course, some people will say it's waste management. It's a failure of waste management, but the effect of that poor waste management has now affected the air in the atmosphere in that environment, such that when you are not there to witness that physical, but you would consume or you will inhale toxic substances from that axis, and then you move on. You in your own mind you think that you are free in that second. So those are some of the um the ways in which industrial activities, including some that's where that region is also where you find this plastic company Eleganza. So, and then some Pepsi industrial. So that axis is highly polluted. And if I'm able to lay my hands on, if it's not covered by copyright, to on the reports of how clean the environment of each region of Lagos, for example. I don't know about any other state, but I know that there was a study on how clean Lagos environment is, and I think Unilag passed the test. I don't think Unilag is highly polluted, but it passed the test. And I think Unilag and which area is it now? There's an area around Unilag that also passed, but places like Yaba didn't pass. Surulere, okay, I think some parts of Surulere passed and all that. So if I'm able to share that, we can look at how in real time, or how in reality our environments, the air pollution within the atmosphere that we reside, can then maybe we can then bring up advocacy issues around some of these things that we look at. So again, what results in all this industrial activities from from lack of infrastructure? From that's my view. One reason that we have lack of infrastructure is that some of the emissions, when companies build their machines, there are no rules regarding how they can channel emissions from their industrial activity into the ground, for example. So everybody just open it into the atmosphere and release whatever it is. But there are technological advancements where some of those things that we are releasing into the atmosphere can be reinjected back into the ground. And that's one. Then number two, um, infrastructure again. A lot of the environments in Nigeria is not, because we don't have electricity. What you will find is that everybody now has a better pass my neighbor, or companies or big men or big houses have big generators that use diesel, and everybody just freely releases um, the byproduct of those chemicals, or the engine oils and chemicals into the atmosphere. And I'm sure you would agree with me. You will agree with me. You will agree with me that it's a major healthcare challenge that we have. Apart from the effects as a noise pollution, there is also the effect as of air pollution, in the sense that some of the fumes resulting from the engines are things that we consume every day. Even if you think you are far away from environments or areas where there are less industrial activities, the ones that we consume in our own environment as a result of over I don't know how to call over generatorized environment that we live in is also a major. So essentially none of us is safe when it comes to some of these atmospheric issues. So the different legal control for industrial activity in law generally rests with issues, and I'm sure you are doing that already, issues in ports. When you talk about the law of nuisance, nuisance seeks to protect the environment or the destruction of components of the environment, like land, or whether in the public nuisance case or in the private nuisance case, where the law requires that you must own a land within the environment, and you can bring an action where there is an unreasonable interference with the activities that affects the environment. And then, of course, the rule in Rylance and Fletcher, which deals with how the escape of dangerous substance on someone's land has caused damage to someone else on the land, and that activity that results in that damage is an activity that is a non-natural use of land. So now, in this day and age, the question is, can we call the use of generator a non-natural use of land? Because I mean, the rules of law are supposed to be relevant within the different environments. So can we call the use of generator a non-natural use of land, so that we can then use that as a basis for bringing an action for atmospheric damage when it comes to some of these issues that we are talking about? And then there are also statutory regulations. Statutory regulation include the Associated Gas Reinjection Act of Nigeria, and then bush burning regulation that we talked about, which essentially tries to regulate the air quality or air standard within the Nigerian environment. And also the EIA Act is also one of those regulations that has been put in place, seeking to address air pollution as a form of regulatory basis. So some of the rules I mean, in terms of the regulations, seems most of the time tries to ensure that there is a standard that every air within a particular atmosphere has, which is generally called air emission standards. It's a regulatory regime that tries to capture the various regulations and of many industries. So depending on which industry you are, there must be that everyone or every person must follow that air emission standards that has been imposed under those regulations. So whether the EIA, the Associated Gas Reinjection Act, or the bush burning regulation, they all have emission standards that the environment must not fall below. And that's the basis upon which you come to the conclusion that one environment is highly polluted because they fall below the baseline standard for the air quality that should be in a particular environment. So there are also different forms of technological standards that has also been designed and evolved, especially when you look at some of the provisions of NESRIA. I will try to, as much as possible, to highlight some of those the provisions of NESRIA, and then there is this case of National Association of Metal Officials and EPA. So I'll try to highlight some of those cases when we look at the statutory rule when it comes to environmental standard. So I think I'll stop there for now, so that it appears we are just 44 of us. So I will try to stop here, and do maybe by tomorrow we have a larger class, and then we can continue from where we stop. But essentially what we have looked at is the different components of air pollution standards that we have within the Nigerian environment. And then, of course, is not an exhaustive provision, it's not exhaustive categories. So whether from industrial emissions to vehicular emissions to agricultural and all that, to even domestic emissions from fumes from machines and chemicals that we use. They are all part of this thing, and then some of the regulations that the law has tried to put in place, including civil regulation from the law of thoughts, and then some of the other statutory regulation like the Gas Reinjection Act and EIA, are some of those things that you should avert your minds to in looking at the different atmospheric pollution that we look at in Nigeria. So by tomorrow, in our next class, I will try to cover some of the both international regulation, that's the law, international treaties seeking to protect the environment, or do we have customary laws in Nigeria before the enactment of treaties on the environment? There are ways in which, if we can use that word, our forefathers have been treating air pollution. And as a matter of fact, you find that most rural areas are cleaner in terms of air quality compared to the urban areas, and that's maybe because of the industrial activity happening in those areas. So we will look at that by tomorrow, and then also some of the treaties that are affecting that. Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Any question? It doesn't seem like we have questions. All right, so I will see you guys tomorrow then. Bye.
Bye, sir.